Today was almost the perfect example as to why you should react to the market rather than trying to predict the market. Make sure to watch the entire video because towards the end, everything just comes together perfectly. All right, so going over the day, I'm down $665 on the day on my Top Step X Combine. But let's just start off by going over what the dailies look like. Let's do our top-down analysis just so we can understand our bias going into the open. Clearly, we can see that we have found support from the start of year VWAP of last year, 2024. And this looks like a nice higher low that price was making on the daily in order to continue to rally higher. And it looks like the correction may be over, or we may just be making a lower high to move even lower. But we'll see. Only time will tell. And if we look at both assets of the ES and also NQ, we can see that both assets overnight were making consistent higher highs and higher lows, staying above the daily VWAP. So this screamed incredibly bullish. Also, both assets gapped up as well in the overnight open. And then getting into the actual 15-minute chart, we can just see in recent times we have been making higher highs and higher lows, and we've been kind of trending higher a little bit. You can definitely see that buyers are starting to come back and really want to push price higher. So with that being said, going into the open, we're obviously looking for longs. The first long I took was on NQ, and it honestly was a bit of a FOMO trade. Well, not a FOMO trade, but a chased entry. I missed my entry, and I have to accept that. I wanted to get in, off of the New York bounce right here. The same play presented on ES, but ES never fully touched its New York. And I don't know what it was, but just looking at price, and especially like on the 15-minute, we had tons of gray space below us to where I didn't want to really get caught taking this bounce play, and then we just make a leg lower to really find our higher low, because at this point, we're still relatively buying pretty high. So who knows how much higher price can actually go. But again, I have to measure this thing out, because in previous days, we've seen price push up like 80 points, 60 points. And obviously that's a lot of movement, and you kind of really do need a pullback. But today's movement only pushed up about 28 points, which is not as much as previous days. And with that being said, it's like, do we really need a pullback at this time? Is this not good enough for a pullback? Was that first opening red candle not good enough for a pullback? Because we were fairly close to the daily, even though we never touched the daily. I mean, technically, it was a pullback. So at that point, if we just recently made a pullback, why should I expect another one? So that kind of kept me out of this long. It was honestly just me overthinking, thinking that we need a pullback. But yeah, that kind of tripped me up. So that's why I missed, and that's why I did not take the entry on ES. And then I looked over on NQ, and I noticed that NQ did touch the New York VWAP and actually looked pretty good. I was trying to kind of get a lower price, and then price just kept going higher and higher and higher. And then I was like, all right, screw it, let me get in. But obviously, that's me chasing an entry. So I acknowledged that I was chasing entry. I locked myself at break even, and I just got stopped out for $20 in profit. Just trying to limit the risk and not lose a trade to where I know I'm chasing the entry. So I wanted to just get out as quickly as I can. Luckily, I was able to lock my stop and get out in a little bit of profit. All right, so going over for the second trade of the day, we can get a better picture of the 15-minute. Like I said before, we have somewhat of gray space in between the 15-minute. And at the time where I was getting in this trade, we can see that price is kind of starting to slow down and really wants to make a pullback. But again, at the time, I'm thinking, okay, well, we haven't really gotten too strong of a pullback yet. We may not want to get one. Stocks are all green. We had orders on the book back above us. And I was like, this is a relatively good spot to buy because the last buying opportunity that we had that worked out was right around here on the first test of the New York VWAP. And so now I'm looking at, okay, wow, I have another chance to kind of like take a bounce play off of the New York. And I did. But obviously, we just didn't have any follow through. We struggled to break above the high of day anchored VWAP. And then we went back in the drawdown. We held opening range high, tried to come back up and break that New York, the high of day anchored VWAP once more, but we couldn't. We failed. And at this point, I got tapped out down here at this recent higher low. Now, the thing that frustrates me the most about this trade is how I managed it. I feel like I over managed it. And to be honest, I mean, hey, I kind of paid the price for it. It was kind of pointless for me to overmanage it. And the reason why I say that is because once we went into drawdown, we failed to break above the high of day anchored VWAP, and we closed below the New York because we couldn't hold it. I closed off half the position for a very small loss. If I'm risking only $1,000 per trade, I only took like a $200 loss. Or I locked in a $200 loss because I closed half the position. So it was not bad at all. So I'm still in 10 MES on this trade. We come back up, and I'm just kind of like getting a little ahead of myself, I'd say, because I see that we get a couple of nice closes above the high of day anchored VWAP, and I'm like, okay, finally, prices wanting to take it. Now this trade's going to work out. But I added in. I added in without the confirmation of price is actually holding the high of day, because it only held above it for like 2 minutes and closed back down and then closed back above it one more and then kind of just started following down and showing that it was failing to hold this. But I never stuck to my plan. Like this trade in general right here was definitely the worst trade I took all day. Even my chase to entry was better than this trade because, again, I cut the trade to cut my loss, but then I added in without full confirmation that we were really going higher. Kind of screwed myself. And the funny thing is if I actually just would have left this trade alone, I wouldn't have been stopped out, and we possibly honestly could have took this a little bit of drawdown. I was like a tick away from getting 2 ticks away from getting stopped out, and actually came back. And we can like actually see that here. It didn't quite tick me out. It wouldn't have quite ticked me out. But what can I say? You know, I'm still learning. All right. But going over trade 3. Now, trade 3 was a really great trade. And it's because I actually got confirmation that buyers are ready to step back in. We pulled back. We gave buyers a rest, and now they're ready to kind of take back control and drive price a little higher. And I saw this and I was able to catch this. Now, I just kind of wish that I was able to get a much better fill price, but unfortunately I wasn't. If I was really dialed in at this time, I definitely think I could have gotten in at the New York. But I got in slightly above the New York. But again, I still think this was a great trade. Again, if I try to get in around here, it still just looks like price is chopping around. And stocks at this time, they were just going sideways. It was so uneventful. Stocks have been uneventful all day. But as soon as I saw this candle kind of pop up, I'm like, whoa, now we're getting some kind of volume. Now we're getting some pump higher. So I wanted to make sure that price was closing properly. Once we close this 15-minute like this, that's a really strong 15-minute bar compared to the other 15-minute bars that are like tiny. I then said, okay, now we're back. I can actually see buyers having the strength to push this higher for a second leg. And so I got in. I got a great fill price, and I was actually able to get out just shy of 1R right before market close. Now, if we're recapping the entire day, I'm looking back on the day and I'm reflecting myself. I'm like, dang, you know what? There's 2 trades that I honestly should have taken. And that is the New York bounce play in the very early morning, which was at, 10 a.m. or ish, or a little after 10 a.m. Even though ES did not fully touch this, the New York VWAP, it still worked out, and it worked out beautifully. In hindsight, it looks really good. But the only thing in the moment why I did not take this trade is because in my mind, I was like, okay, we haven't had a full retest, or we haven't touched the daily chart since 6 o'clock last night. I'm sorry, we haven't touched the daily VWAP since 6 o'clock last night. I was kind of tunnel visioned and thinking that price needs to retest the daily VWAP. And so that's what kept me out of this trade. But again, if I'm being real myself, like that's kind of stupid. Why am I trying to predict what price needs to do? Price is going to do whatever it wants to do. All I can do is read and react. And this push higher in the open is not even that big. It was like 28 points. Why am I so stuck on the thought that price needs to make a deeper pullback in order to continue higher? This is a great opportunity to get in, and I missed it. And then the second opportunity we can see is along off of the daily VWAP after we actually get this nice pullback in order to have a second leg, if you even want to call it that. After I see price consolidating, chopping around here at the daily, this is the last key level we need to hold for me to say that buyers are still in control in this market. And that should have been my entry signal. It's respecting the daily VWAP. We're not able to kind of close below it. And so we're respecting it and we're holding it. And then we kind of bounce from it. I could have gotten in anywhere around here because my entry signal is technically to wait for a bullish candle to present and then for that candle's high to be taken out, and then I get in. And to be quite frankly, I didn't get in because I just thought it was gonna chop around for the remainder of the day and just end sideways, and we were just gonna have one of those really boring afternoons. And the reason for this is because if you look at stocks again, all the stocks were trading sideways. Tesla made a push higher, and then for the rest of the day, trade sideways. Nvidia was trading sideways, made a push higher, and then sideways again. Apple sideways all day. Like almost all the stocks were sideways. So I was like, dude, today's a weird day. But I decided to do some other things, but I kept this chart up in the background. And I noticed that, hey, we started to pick up some volume. We started to respect the daily. So I ended up getting in. But again, this should have been the trade I was in if I'm sticking to my plan, if I'm sticking to my process. I'm a bounce trader. That is what I'm best at. I need to be playing bounce plays because it gives me a good fill price. And that's how I just read the market. If we're not able to hold the daily VWAP, which is the last resort for longs, then why would I want to be in long? So I kind of need to just not think so much in terms of over analyzing the market and just take the setups that present. Because if I'm looking at how the 15-minute looks, we looked very bullish. We're holding above the daily VWAP all session. We haven't even touched the daily VWAP at all. We were just kind of gliding above it overnight, and then we started to really push higher. And then on the 15-minute, I mean, we can just look like that looks like a pullback, a necessary pullback that it needs. You see this, like we're almost touching the daily, but since we didn't actually touch the daily, I was just being stubborn. And honestly, it was pretty stupid. But I'm looking to fix that tomorrow. Like tomorrow, I need to just really evaluate and just react to what price is doing. I can't try to predict or fear a certain outcome. Listen, if I take that first bounce play and then price actually does make a deeper pullback, that's okay. I can always get back in because I know in the long term, I will get better at taking these bounce plays. I will have a lot more discretion towards these bounce plays, and I'll make better decisions, right? But I can't fear of getting into a nice setup that presents because I'm fearing that, oh no, we need a deeper pullback. When in reality, it's like, do we really? But if you enjoyed today's video and you've actually found it to be helpful, maybe you can help me out as well by leaving a like, sharing this video, and subscribing to my channel. Catch you guys on the next one.